الله تعالى وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على أشرف المخلوقين سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Inshallah, we'll be continuing the study of Tafseer al-Quran from Surah Fatir, inshallah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء فلا تذهب نفسك عليهم حسرات إن الله عليم بما يصنعون والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد ميت فأحيينا به الأرض بعد موتها كذلك النشور من كان يريد العزة فلله العزة جميعا إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب والعمل الصالح يرفعه والذين يمكرون السيئات لهم عذاب شديد ومكر أولئك هو يبور والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا وما تحمل من أنثى ولا تضع إلا بعلمه وما يعمر من معمر ولا ينقص من عمره إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج ومن كل تأكلون لحما طريا وتستخرجون حلية تلبسونها وترى الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون صدق الله العظيم. As we mentioned last week, Surah Fatir, again, one of the surahs, Al-Makkiyah, revealed in Mecca, and mostly it talks about the Aqidah, the belief. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the very first ayat that I mentioned, He said, أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ فَرَأَهُ حَسَنًا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُضِلُّ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Subhanallah. Imagine a person that he sees what he is doing is good, but actually what he is doing is bad. And there's no way for him to see the truth. How can that a person be guided? He will never be guided. And he will insist that what I'm doing is good, whatever you tell him. Something similar to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned when He said, قُلْ هَلْ أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا. Do you want me to tell you about the worst amongst the losers? الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. Those that they are being misguided, but they think that they are doing good. A person like this, he has no way out, except if the hidayah comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And guess what? Sometimes we get stubborn and we insist in something and we don't even question ourselves if what I'm doing is good or it's not good. And I don't want to even think about it. I completely don't want to think about it. One of those, and this is what the scholars talk about it, they said one of those is what we call bid'ah. Because the difference between bid'ah and sayyi'ah, the sayyi'ah, most of the people do know about it. For example, drinking wine, it's haram. A person may play with it, but in the end of the day it's haram. Committing zina, it's haram. So even if someone wants to make it looks okay, it's not going to be okay because Allah said it's haram. But the worst part, when something like a bid'ah, let's say, take any bid'ah that we know, visiting the graves of the people who passed away and then asking them to help us, a holy man. It's actually not, it's a bid'ah that leads to shirk. So when a person, you tell him this is a bid'ah, you say, no, what's wrong about it? I am just visiting a person who used to be a good person, and I'm asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of him So he make it looks okay. And that's the problem. So he will continue doing that. Because the sayyah, in the end of the day, someone who is committing sayyah, one day say, I know it's wrong. But for the bid'ah, he does not want to accept it's wrong. And one of the worst things, which is I see among us, if we have been doing this kind of bid'ah, any bid'ah, it is very difficult for you to accept it and say, yeah, it's a bid'ah. I've been doing this for the last 20 years, and now you are telling me it's a bid'ah. I saw my parents doing that, and all the family are doing that, and now you are telling me it's a bid'ah. Like something very similar that we practice, like what we call Quran Khani. So many brothers, and we talk, and we explain, this is not something that Rasulullah did. And you know what? You could go and ask any scholar. He will say, yeah, you're right, but I still have to do it. Because if I don't do it, what the people will say about me? They will say he didn't have no respect for his father or mom or uncle or whatever. You see now? And then he will try to make it, what's wrong with that? We're just reading Quran. We're coming to the masjid. Is it haram to come to the masjid? Is it haram to come to the masjid and read Quran? Is it haram that the people are sitting in this place? And so he makes it look okay. And that's the problem. And that's what the ayah says. أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ فَرَآهُ حَسَنًا. So the shaitan, he whispers in your mind and he makes it looks good for you. He makes it looks that it's okay. No, it's not okay. The problem with the bid'ah, why it's worse than the sayyah, that most of the people who doing a bid'ah, he will die with that bid'ah because he will never accept that it's wrong. And subhanallah, I don't want to say I see that, but from my own experience, majority of the people who has been doing something wrong, a bid'ah, he would not accept to change it, especially if he gets older. Because for him, you are telling me for the last 50 years I have been wrong? For him, that was like he was doing something good. He was actually gaining good deeds. And now you're telling him you multiply all that by 0? But he does not know, by the way, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the beauty, Allah said, the people who repent, أُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ. He may change their sayyat to hasanat. Why? Because they accept the fact and they kill their own ego. I am wrong. I accept it. Look, if I am going to the wrong direction, even if I walk for 500 miles, 5,000 miles, that's not going to take me to my... But if I make a U-turn, it will be much closer to the right destination. Even a small U-turn, it will make me closer to the right destination. And this is the problem. That's why the scholars, they insisted about the bid'ah a lot more than anything else. Books were written about it to clarify that, subhanAllah. So Allah said, أَفَمَنْ زُيِّنَ لَهُ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ فَرَآهُ حَسَنًا. Now, when we put this in the context of this surah, it's not about the bid'ah, it's actually about the shirk. The people who used to worship idols, again, for them, what they used to say? They used to tell, إِنَّمَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ لِيُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفًا. They say, you know what? We don't worship them for any reasons, but because they will bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we know that there's God. We know that there's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you know what? Something similar, let's say in Christianity. How they change the status of Isa alayhi salam. From what? From a servant to Allah to the son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how also we change the status of many people from servant to Allah to an intermediate between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Islam came completely to remove that. Say, there is nothing between you and Allah. Just you talk to him and he is there. He removed any kind of priesthood or anything. Say, you don't need that. You don't need anyone between you and Allah. Why? Another person has to be between you and Allah. Whoever is that person, even a prophet or a messenger. Allah is the creator, so he doesn't need anyone between him and his servants. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. Allah said in Surah Al-Baqarah, if my servants they ask you about me, I am close to them. They don't need someone to talk on their behalf to me, subhanallah. So, أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء. The guidance, it's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always. And this is again what we would say. Many times people, when they come to talk about something, could be anyone, someone from the family, someone far, someone close, I say, remember, the hidayah is from Allah. Yes, you have to do your part, you have to do your job, but in the end of the day, the hidayah from Allah. If you already put a good seed, it will come back. But if you did not do that, it's not going to come back. It's the earning of your hands, subhanallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَلَا تَذْهَبْ نَفْسُكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسَرَاتٍ. Such a beautiful expression again, poetic expression if you want. Rasulullah, with his very hard work with the people, calling them, and they are not responding to him, he was very sad. He was really sad. And you could see that. He tried his best. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, فَلَا تَذْهَبْ نَفْسُكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسَرَاتٍ. Do not like kill yourself. Dahabun nafs, it's like you're going to die out of what? Hasra, sorrow. You are so disappointed that these people are not following the truth. They live in the right things and they are going for the bad things. So Allah said, don't. And many ayahs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he told the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because he was so concerned about them. He doesn't want them to die as kafir. Because if a person dies a kafir, what else? Nothing. He's not going to learn, he's not going to earn anything, by the way. And subhanallah, it happens sometimes when you get angry at someone and we curse that person. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let him go to the hellfire. By the way, once we do that, and I know all of us, we may do that out of anger. If I make a curse to someone, say, oh Allah, make him go to Jahannam, right? Who is going to be happy in that situation? Is it shaitan or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It is actually the shaitan. The whole job of the shaitan that he wants to take the maximum people with him. So by cursing someone or by wishing for that person to go to the Jahannam, you are not doing any good to yourself or to that person or to this ummah, subhanallah. Yes, we all get angry, but again, you're not making anything positive by cursing someone and hoping or wishing for that person to go to the hellfire. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he never wanted to do so. Probably he did it once or twice, couple of times for certain circumstances, but most of the time he was not. In the Battle of Uhud, and that's the worst scenario, subhanallah, they pushed him, Rasulullah, he fell in a hole and they hit him with the sword, and the teeth of his, subhanallah, Hamilton went into his face and he started bleeding and he broke his teeth. So you could see this scenario. And one of them, of the Sahaba, he said, curse them, O Rasulullah. Rasulullah, in that situation, he said, إِنَّنِي لَمْ أُبْعَتْ لَعَانًا إِنَّمَا أَنَا رَحْمَةُ الْمُهْدَاتِ. I was not being sent to curse people, but I was sent as a mercy. In that situation, yes, in that situation. The story of the Ta'if, it tells us also the same. Actually, more than that, the story of the few people that they came to Rasulullah and they claimed that they accepted Islam and they stayed with the Muslims for a couple of days, and then before leaving, they said, why don't you send with us someone to teach us? So he sent with them what? A group of Qaris, they say Hafiz, to teach them Quran. Once they got to a place called Bi'ru Ma'una, what they did? They attacked them and they killed all those Muslims. And once the news came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was completely upset, angry, if you want. You could imagine, you did something good to some people, and what they did, they took the people and they killed them. And according to the hadith, say, فَقَنَتَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ شَهْرًا. For 1 whole month, he was doing qunut. Qunut in Fajr prayer. Fajr prayer, he does the qunut, and what he does in the qunut, he makes dua against those people who killed the Muslims. For 1 whole month. Oh Allah, do this to them, destroy them. And after the end of the month, the ayah was revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, telling him, لَيْسَ لَكَ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. It's not up to you. If Allah wants to forgive them, or to punish them, it's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Rasulullah stopped making dua against those people. It's just amazing, subhanallah. So Allah said, فَلَا تَذْهَبْ نَفْسُكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسَرًا. Don't kill yourself out of sorrow because of them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ. Allah, He knows what they are doing. وَاللَّهُ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ الرِّيَاحَ فَتُثِيرُ سَحَابًا فَسُقْنَاهُ إِلَى بَلَدٍ مَيِّتٍ. Allah, He is the one who sent the wind, and this wind, it brings a cloud, and that cloud, it changed to rain, and we take it to a dead land. And فَأَحْيَيْنَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. And that gave the life to that land after it was completely dead. كَذَلِكَ النُّشُورِ. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will do the resurrection, the people will come back. Now, subhanallah, Allah was talking about the people, and then He changed and started talking about the rain. Actually, it's another message to tell us, do not lose hope in anyone. Do not lose hope in anyone that you see that he's been misguided, right? And he's not following the path, and he's doing whatever, and then you say, there's no way. Allah said, Allah is the one who bring wind, and the wind take with it the cloud, and the cloud may go to somewhere where we think that that area is completely dead, nothing is coming out of that, and the rain will come, and that rain, it will give life to that, and that earth, it will start giving you fruit, and whatever it could be, subhanallah. And that's the sign of life. That's the same for the human being. Do not lose hope in a human being. Never, ever. If Allah wants the hidayah will happen. The most beautiful example is Umar radiallahu anhu arda. And no better example than Umar. People never thought that Umar would accept Islam. Never. Umar was, subhanallah, the worst. Ashaddahum. He was so tough on the Muslims, what he was doing. He had a servant, a female servant, and one day he was beating her up the whole day until he got tired. But that servant, subhanallah, he told her, how come I beat you up and you are not tired and I am tired? She said, Allah helps me, but He doesn't help you. This Umar that we're talking about, one day one of the females, subhanallah, Muslimas, was about to do hijrah, to migrate. So he met her and said, where are you going? Say, well, just leaving this place for you. This is what you did. So Umar, he was somehow soft to her, talking nicely to her. And he said, if you need some help. Anyway, the end of the day, that lady met her husband and they were talking. She said, I saw from Umar something amazing, weird. He said, well, he was nice, he was kind. He said, looks like you have like some hope that Umar will accept Islam. He said, why not? He said to her, this is the expression in Arabic, what he said. He said, حتى لو أسلم حمار سبحان الله حمار دار الخطاب لن يسلم عمر. Even if the donkey of the house of the Khattab, the family of Khattab, then still Umar will not accept Islam. And look at who is Umar and how Allah turned Umar, that he became the Faruq, the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made him the Amirul Mu'mineen, subhanallah. We never lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about ourselves or about anyone, up to the last moment, subhanallah. Allah said, مَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ الْعِزَّةَ فَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ جَمِيعًا. Such a beautiful ayah again. If you are looking for izzah, and I'm sure that you have this word in Urdu also, izzah, strength, highness, support, whatever you call it. Most of us, and again, we are looking for someone who is very well, he has a good position. And think if I have relation with that person, he will give me protection. He will give me izzah. He will give me this and that. And our relations are based on that. Like when we build relation with wealthy people, with very highly qualified people, and we're thinking by doing so, it is something that may give us support if some problems happen. It's not. Allah said, if you are looking for izzah, it's only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by the way, this is what's happening to this ummah now. The ummah is completely, again, it's completely gone astray. Thinking by building relations, for example, with big powers, it will give you izzah. It will never give you izzah. Never give you izzah, subhanallah. And if we study the history of the Muslims, we will realize that. we will realize that the Muslims, they never got izzah because they were able to build a relation with the big powers, or no. The izzah always when they had faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Umar radiallahu anhu, again this is a beautiful example, he used to say, we don't get victory because of our numbers or because of we are courageous. We got it for something else, because of our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that, just imagine that he removed Khalid ibn al-Walid from the Khalid was the general, the general of the Muslims army. And Khalid was an amazing person, you cannot even imagine. Khalid, according to the historians, he never lost even one battle. All his battles he won. Until like the enemy used to say, if Khalid is in the army, we're going to lose. I mean, the enemies. And the Muslims start thinking, if Khalid is with us, we are going to. So you see how you start thinking about Khalid in a very positive way? Okay. Umar came now and he realized that. He removed Khalid and he put someone else, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. And a lot of people, they criticize Umar. But Umar said, we don't win because of Khalid. Yes, Khalid is one of the soldiers. Khalid is Sayfullah al-Maslul. Khalid, but remember, it's not because of Khalid. It's because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This faith was with the Muslims. Always, and Umar was very firm with this matter. Whenever it matter of aqidah, he would not, compromise anything, subhanallah. That a lot of people, they start saying things about Khalid and Umar and that they had some, no, it's not. Umar has that faith in him. That the one who gives you the victory, the nasr, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are asbab. Those asbab may be there, but it may not happen. Look at the Battle of Badr and the Battle of Uhud. The Battle of Uhud, Rasulullah was with the people. And Abu Bakr, wa Umar, wa Uthman, wa Ali, wa Talha, but the Muslim lost. إِنَّمَا النَّصْرُ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Yes, some mistakes happen. Yes, of course, some mistakes. But in the end of the day, the Muslims lost with all that. Why? Because it's Allah who gives victory, subhanallah. إِلَيْهِ يَصْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحُ يَرْفَعُهُ. الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ. Remember, every word that we say, it goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every word. Do not think that a second of your time is being lost because you spend it in something positive. You are by yourself and you just remember saying, subhanallah. It goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You are looking to the face of your father or your mom in a positive way. That is also being gone to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything, subhanallah. And that's why the hadith of Rasulullah say, عَجَبًا أَمْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِ. It's amazing, the affair of a mu'min. Whatever he does is khair. If something positive happened to him and he's thankful, Allah will reward him for it. If something bad happened to him and he is being patient, still he will be rewarded for it. And that's what we have to see, subhanallah. إِلَيْهِ يَصْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحُ يَرْفَعُهُ. The amal al-salih. And remember, your amal salih is always being raised up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ يَمْكُرُونَ السَّيِّئَاتِ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ. With this picture that we are talking about, there are people that they never stop doing the bad planning. It could be among the Muslims, among non-Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows. And He said, لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ. Don't worry about them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of them. وَمَكْرُ أُولَٰئِكَ هُوَ يَبُورٌ. All their planning, it will be gone. It will be, look, you cannot imagine how many times the people had bad plans about the Islam and about the Muslims, about the Quran. But all that is just a part of the history right now. Islam, it's not getting, the Islam always is spreading. Look, the Islam started with one man, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and then few people, and then do you think the Islam is spreading more or less? It is actually more. with all the weaknesses that we do have. You know why? Because it's not me or you. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who promised. And He said this Islam, it will knock the doors of every single person in every single place. Bi'izzi, subhanahu azizin aw dhulli, whatever. With whatever, that you will be part of it or you'll not be part of it, Islam will be there, subhanallah. And any planning, it will end. Probably, again, just finishing this, just to see how these plans of the people always will be destroyed. The example of the Battle of Ahzab is an example. The Muslims, they were about to finish. If you really study that, how the Muslims were completely surrounded from all the areas, and from the back that they were thinking that the back will be, the Jews, they broke the treaty. And Allah explained that in the Quran, and He said, when the army came to you from north, south, and He said, and then وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرِ, and your heart, you felt like it's in your throat out of fear. وَتَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ الظُّنُونَ, and you start having doubts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هُنَالِكَ ابْتُلِيَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَزُلْزِلُوا زِلْزَالًا شَدِيدًا. That was a very difficult test, and the Muslims, it's like an earthquake, they're shaking. What happened there? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His own ways. All what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to do, He said, we send a wind. وَجُنُودًا لَمْ تَرَوْهَا, and soldiers that you just did not know. The power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I remember also this about the Quran itself, how it's being protected. It's amazing how this Quran is being protected. First, it's in the heart of the Muslims. Small kids, adult, man, woman, subhanallah. But you know, sometimes in early 70s, they also try to change the Quran. And what they did, subhanallah, they printed 100,000 copies of the Quran. 100,000 copies of the Quran written in such a beautiful way, and the cover is so beautiful, the quality of the paper, subhanallah, and it was about the month of Ramadan. So it was distributed in many places, and nobody questioned who did this, because you just receive a gift. Wow, it's beautiful. 100,000 copies, and it was distributed. But what happened with that Quran? It was not printed by any Muslim organization or by any Muslim government, by the way. Until a certain time, the Quran was not allowed to be printed by anyone, but only by the government. Why? Because you cannot afford to have one mistake. Because any book may have mistakes. That's fine for printing, but not the Quran. The scholars has to go over letter by letter, vowel by vowel. And subhanallah, that Quran has at that time 14 mistakes. And those mistakes were actually purposely done for the aqidah, for the faith. One of the mistakes, just an example, or just tell you how they found out. One of the copies was given as a gift to one of the shuyukh in Al-Azhar in Ramadan. And you know, the scholars usually, they like to read from the Quran, even if they know it. If they know by heart, it's actually a ibadah when you look at the book. It's good, you memorize it, but just looking at the words. So he took that copy and he started reading. When he started reading in Baqarah, so he came to the first mistake. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الدِّلَّةُ وَالْمَسْكَنَةُ وَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. So it talks about the Jewish people and say, ذلك بأنهم كانوا يقتلون النبيين بغير الحق ذلك بأنهم كانوا يكفرون بآيات الله ويقتلون بغير الحق ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا معتدين. And the ayah says, وَضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الدِّلَّةُ وَالْمَسْكَنَةُ وَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. Look at this word. ضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الذِّلَّةُ وَالْمَسْكَنَةُ وَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. The change is, ضربت عليهم العزة والسكينة وباءوا برضا من الله. The whole meaning change. The first one, ضربت عليهم الذلة. They are going to be ذليل. You know what's ذليل? Lower. There's no respect. ضربت عليهم الذلة والمسكنة. مسكنة It's like a miskin, right? So you will not have a status. وَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. And you will earn anger from Allah. This is actually the real version, which is in the Quran. Now, the printed Quran, it says in that part, وَضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الْعِزَّةُ وَالسَّكِينَةُ. So they will earn izzah. Instead of dhillah, they use izzah. وَالسَّكِينَةُ. Sakina means tranquility instead of maskana. وَبَاءُوا بِرِضًا مِّنَ اللَّهِ. And you will gain rida, pleasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The scholars, when he started reading, he came to that sentence. And of course, when he reads with understanding. He knows what he's reading. How he say, so he was just shocked. He say, oh, how that? So he continued reading. He said, probably this is a new Quran and this is a mistake. He continued reading. And then he found the other one, and the third one, and the fourth one. And all those mistakes, and one of them, the amazing mistakes is the وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ Whoever, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا, whoever takes anything but not the Islam, it will not be taken from him. It will not be accepted from him. This is the ayah. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا. If you take something but not the Islam, فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. It will not be accepted from you. So they change it to, and look at the mistake. Very simple. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. And whoever take Islam as deen, it will not be taken, accepted from him. They're just using one word. غَيْر, you take off غَيْر, the whole meaning change. The first one, if you take something, not the Islam, it will not be taken from you. The other one, if you take the Islam, it will not be taken from you. Now he realized that. So they had an emergency meeting, and then they saw that. So they removed all those Qur'ans. You may say, so imagine if those Qur'ans, which is, I say, 100,000 copies, if every year they print 100,000, and you could print even more. Imagine after 10 years, how many copies will be in the hands of the people? Imagine after 50 years, someone will say, hold on, I have a copy of the Quran which is printed 50 years, this is what it says. All right? You are talking about, this is what it says, and this is what's happening in the Bibles now. Each Bible has something different. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted the Quran to have mistakes, and the people, and then everyone say, you know, I have a copy from my grandfather, and this is what it says. Your copy is wrong. You say, no, but this is, no, this is right. This is wrong. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His ways. Again, Allah promised to protect this book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّا نَحْنُ أَنزَلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. We are the one who sent this book, and we are the one, Allah said, that I will protect it. So there's no fear about this Quran, but the fear is about ourselves. Yes, we could be a part of this. We could be a part of the hifd of the Quran. Like, you know, when you memorize the Quran, there's no one who could change it in your mind. If I read for you the Quran and I said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ. Say, hold on, brother, you made a mistake. What is my mistake? قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ. You're going to say, what is it? قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. And I say, oh, brother, don't worry, I am an Arab and I did literature. Ahad and Wahid is the same. You say, brother, no. You tell me, no, it has to be Ahad. You are PhD in Arabic language or you are the most genius, but it's Ahad, not Wahid. Right? And that's exactly what happened with this Muslim Ummah. The power of memorizing the Quran, it is a protection for the Quran in the mind and the heart of everyone. You go to any other place, it's not going to change anything. Even imagine, subhanAllah, look now, how many people don't know Arabic language and they memorize this book. How are you going to change that in their minds? There's no way. There's no way. I remember one time, this story happened to me. We had an interfaith in one of those churches and I went, and then there was a Jew, a Christian, and myself, and then the Jew, he said something interesting. He said, if we want to sit and talk, we all have to remove all the precedent ideas in our minds. like the Muslims has to put the Quran on the side. Actually, he used this word. He said, we have to throw our books in the ocean, and then we could sit and talk. The lady who was representing Christianity said something very interesting. She said, you know, for the Muslims, it's not going to be a problem. He said, what do you mean? He said two things. Number one, majority of the Muslims, they memorize Quran by heart. Some of the Quran at least. So they know. Number two, you cannot remove that from the Quran. Number two, he said, if you put the Quran in the ocean, they will say the ocean becomes blessed because of the Quran. So this is one of the things which is we should be thankful for Allah. May Allah forgive all of us. Astaghfirullah lakum jami'an. If you have any comments, we'll be very happy, inshallah.
In India, the most strong publisher of Quran is Hindu publisher.
Subhanallah.
And he employed Muslims. Even in this area, you go inside printing area with wuzu. And his Quran is very authentic. And it is very popular in whole India, and all Muslim scholars they certify this Quran. So, subhanallah.
Subhanallah, yes. Yes. That's true.
I forget his name, he's very famous.
Yes, it's very interesting again. You see, a non-Muslim is being used to print the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has his own ways. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك له الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وإليه المصير وعلى كل شيء قدير اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين جزاكم الله خيرا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله